Hi, Patty. How are
How
you?
are you? I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, I know. I was so excited to come tonight.
Oh, good.
So, what are we talking about tonight?
Live up to your possibilities.
All
The word I
right.
love. Going to tweak your brain about what's really possible.
You know, I did. I loved your class so much, Patty, because one of the best things about it was the homework. How funny is that? I mean, when you're in school, how much do you love doing homework? Oh,
Yeah.
right? And I just thought this was so great.
Oh,
That,
I appreciate that because, a lot of classes I've taken through the years and most of the people I know that teach, they don't do a lot of homework.
I know, and it
And
was
sometimes they call it something else. But the way I design it is to get you more excited about what we're doing, and to me, you got to do it
yeah.
and sometimes that script analysis, when I came up with that a couple of years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago now, that just ended up being a really nice little exercise in really thinking a little more deeply about how the words impact us.
Oh, yeah, and it kind of gave you when you write your own script, it kind of gave you an outline. So when you're doing your analysis, of all the different parts, so you actually have something to follow that you'll get the job done. Then you can just fill in all the stuff that you want to talk about. But at least you have like a solid outline to go by. So I just thought it was awesome.
Yeah, we could do a whole course on script writing.
Oh, that'd be fun.
And it's like, how do you write a metaphor? So many people, including myself, and I had been a songwriter, you'd think that would be easy for me. It really was one of the biggest struggles I had in my hypnosis course that I took. In the degree that I was going for, the biggest sticking point was when I had to write a metaphor because it had to meet such strict parameters. And it's in your book, my script book that you guys got, and it's the one on the shooting star.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those that came through working with that lady that had cancer, and it literally came through me and went out on the paper. It was one of those, it just flowed. And it reminded me of when I used to write songs the ones I loved the most were the ones I didn't think while I was writing them. They just flowed.
Mm-hmm.
The creative, button was pushed and it just came out, and you didn't have to think about it or try. It just flowed right out. And so anyway, that's metaphors and script writing, I think, is a great exercise.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about getting yourself and your mind
Mm-hmm.
to be spontaneously creative and flexible and all of that. And it's not about memorizing scripts or how to say something. It's about sparking your own creativity, to me.
That's awesome. Well, one of the young women that had come to me when for our student, our person that we did a session on, she has come back like 3 times.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, and
She must like you. She
oh
must
my,
like what you're doing.
you know what? She was seeing a psychologist or something like that, and she's on meds for the anxiety. And she went back to see her doctor, and doctor's like, "Oh, you seem to be pretty happy." And she's like, "I'm doing hypnosis." And her therapist says, "You know what? Whatever works." She goes, "I've had other people come through here," and she said, for her, the talk therapy. She goes, "I've been doing that for so long."
Yeah.
And you feel good when you walk out of there. She goes, but then it doesn't last. You get up the next morning.
And again, it's that surface.
Yep.
It's that, it's still, the unconscious is still listening, but you're not getting past.
Right.
It's still that cognitive conscious, they even call it cognitive behavioral therapy. It's on a conscious level. And most of the times when people have problems like that, it's not at the conscious level.
Right.
And hypnosis, it doesn't take, I mean, you can do that too. And that's why the people that are really good at those kinds of talk therapies, when they, like Eric, when they incorporate hypnosis with it, holy cow, you know, it just takes it to that deeper level. Michael Yapko, that's why I love him, because he's a psychologist and he absolutely loves hypnosis. And all of his talks he gives at the colleges and the different institutes and stuff, he always says that hypnotherapy is the most powerful, long-lasting change work you can do.
Right.
You know, and if you're already trained in the language of the mind, you know, although a lot of cognitive behavioral therapists, I don't think really do know how to talk to the unconscious mind as well,
So,
generally, as hypnotherapists are taught to. And that's what I want to teach, is talking to that, because that's what we're all about. Otherwise, we can just do talk therapy, and it's nice you have a lifetime clients, you know, and to be
while I was in your class, a lot of the weeks I worked on my hip pain while I was sleeping. And by the end of your class, no more pain.
Yeah.
No more pain.
Of course.
That was,
of course, because you're wonderful sleeping, and you know what to do.
I need to still figure out the sleep thing, because I worked on that too, but I just can't get that one. So
I have a seminar that I've been doing for years, and I'm always updating it. Oh, Sean just showed up. Oh, good. He was in my hypnosis training last year. Anyway,
do you have a sleep program?
Yeah, I was going to say, I have a seminar that I do every now and then. It's called Hypnosis That Will Put You to Sleep.
I'm gonna go to your website tomorrow.
You know, because hey, might as well have fun with it, right?
Power flicker. So
yeah, I'm hearing a lot of thunder, so hopefully we won't get. It's like, put out some good energy here. Oh,
hey there.
Can you hear that thunder? Oh my goodness.
We can, yeah.
It's like the climate comes in and gives you a big exclamation point once in a while, just to make a point.
And you just want to make sure the power doesn't go out.
Well, yeah. That's what we absolutely. Tonight's all about possibilities, and we're going to talk about all of the positive possibilities. Yeah.
I have a question. Yeah.
I just saw that outside my window. Oh my God. It hit the tree outside my window. Oh my God, that was so bright.
Stay safe.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Jose, what did you?
I had a question. From my understanding, in order to certify oneself in medical hypnosis, we have to have 200 hours of work in
hypnosis. Yeah.
How do we certify that?
Well, if you went through certain organizations, then we know that you had that, because each organization, you know, is self-governing. It's a self-regulating field. So there are certain organizations that we know have high enough standards, like IACT. They require 220 hours now to become certified as a hypnotherapist. So if you went through IACT's hypnosis program, which is the one I trained through, that's why I trained through them, because they're the highest standards, then we already know that you've got enough training. We just don't want people coming into that medical hypnosis that don't know how to hypnotize somebody. We're not going back to the basics and say, here's step 1, 2, 3. They have to already know the language and basics.
So the training for certification is enough to then take the medical hypnosis course.
If you're a certified hypnotherapist through IACT, you definitely have enough training. Absolutely. Plus, you took the 2-day training, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you took the 2-day medical specialty training. You didn't go through the certified part, but you've already got that. So next year, if you wanted to get certified, you can take the 2 days again, or you can. I start one online here in Palm Harbor, but I do it online now because there's people from all over the world. So you can jump in on that next year and finish it out. You can do that any time in the future because you've already got the hours. And then if you want to get certified, and it was fun, wasn't it, gals? There's three of them on here that were in it. They loved it.
It was awesome.
We had 11. We started out with 13, And we lost 2 people, and we literally lost one of them last month, who had some health issues, and bless her heart. I just found out a couple days ago that she died, Joan. Anyway, life goes on. And here we are. So welcome, everybody. So that's the, did I answer your question, Jose? Did that? Yeah. So again, uphypnosis.com for anything that you all have questions, or you can just contact me, uphypnosis@Yahoo or uphypnosis@Outlook for email. And so we're here today. Like I said, every month we do this, and it's a different topic every month, but I thought live up to your possibilities. It's kind of a fluffy title. And yet every time I do one of these, I start out with a theme, and then I start exploring, because that's one of the reasons I love teaching. It allows me to explore. And when you start exploring possibilities, and the meaning of words, which is what hypnosis and linguistics, neurolinguistic programming, some of you are trained in. My training has a lot of that incorporated into it, because I can't imagine not training them together, although I do teach NLP separately as well. But the linguistics of the unconscious mind is what hypnosis is all about, isn't it? How do we talk to our unconscious mind? Judy and I were talking, she was the first one on, and we were talking about someone who came to her that for years has been going to talk therapy, right? And all of a sudden is having these phenomenal results. And the talk therapist who's giving her medications, of course, was like, and we're not talking names, so we can talk about, we're not going to mention names in here, but just anecdotally, this person all of a sudden is getting results after just, and what, she saw you once and then was already getting results. And now she's been back, what, 3 times? And that was one of your practice clients for our class. And that's what can happen, because the possibilities, when somebody has something happening that, in their life that isn't going exactly the way, whether it's a health issue, an emotional issue, or a physical goal that you have, a life goal or relationship things, it's all related. You can't have, I always say, you can't have a problem in one area without it affecting all the other areas. And the good news is, once you work with hypnosis for the one thing that they come in for the one focal point, because hypnosis requires a focal point. That's why we start with, focus on a spot on the wall, or focus on, your finger, or focus on the hand, or focus on whatever. It's about narrowing your focus on one thing to get rid of all that clutter. And now you can really get into what is behind that presenting issue or that presenting symptom. What's behind that, not just the surface issues. And hypnosis, what we're trained in with hypnosis is how to, I call it subtext, how to see and hear and detect beyond the words, beyond the surface presenting issues, so that we can talk to that unconscious part of the mind. I call it unconscious. You may use the word subconscious. There's a whole lot of terms for it. I use the word unconscious to mean anything that's outside of your awareness, that inner mind, that inner intelligence, that higher intelligence, however you want to think about it. And we talk to that part of the mind to see what's going on. What is either inhibiting the person from getting, from being at their best, being at their most excellent self, in certain, maybe just in certain situations, maybe it's situational, circumstantial, or maybe it's a health issue that is a sticking point that isn't healing as well as maybe the medical community thinks it should, and there's no surface answer for it. There's all kinds of things at the unconscious level that can then, we can help access that and get some resolution. So possibilities, you all know the name of my company is Up Hypnosis. That's the short name. The long name in California, before I moved here about 19 years ago, the whole name of my company was Unlimited Possibilities. And I created that up symbol. And then when I moved to Florida, I wanted to incorporate. So I added Hypnosis Incorporated after Unlimited Possibilities. Then it became so long, I did a DBA of Up Hypnosis, Inc. And then Up Hypnosis Institute about a year after I moved here, because I became a trainer. And then that became the acronym for Up Hypnosis Institute, is Up High. And I thought that is so perfect, because what I want to talk about today about living up to your possibilities, and for those of you, I think you're all hypnotists here, or at least in training to be, a couple of you, is about how can we ourselves, and because we got to work on ourselves too, right? If we're not at our best, how can we help someone else be at their best? It's got to be that mind body cohesion term that I came up with when I first started my degree back at the beginning of my hypnosis career, because I never stop learning. I'm always studying. And the mind body cohesion was something I came up with because it described something that made sense to me. And I'm going to talk about those words in a minute too, because if you're wanting to be your best, if you want to live up to your own possibilities and help others to do the same, if you're in that field, there's something called a life theme. I like to think of it as a life theme. The up symbol is symbolic of my life theme. It became the symbol. After I came into hypnosis, it became symbolic of something that I had been living by my entire life without using that symbol for it necessarily. And it became symbolic of a mindset of up. Because if you're up, you can't be down, right? And if you feel down, everything kind of goes in that direction. If you make yourself physically stand up and look up and, bring your faculties up and maybe stand up and put your hands up in the air, you're just by shifting your physical body, you start to feel different. You're going to feel different. And the old thing, fake it till you make it, sometimes can help people to pull themselves out of something that is a down. So a life theme helps you on a daily basis to bring yourself into, how do I want to move through the world? Because there's going to be, I always talk about the roller coaster of life, the ups and downs are always going to be there for all of us. What I think of hypnosis and neurolinguistics and the things that we all study as being in this field, what it does, if your norm is here and you're up and down and up, some ups are really high, some downs go really low. What I think of hypnosis doing when you really work at it, like we all do, is it raises your level. So what used to be your daily norm with the highs and lows around that, and this is where it always comes back to normal, all of a sudden it becomes higher. You learn how to enjoy the highs even more, and you learn to catch the dips before they take a nosedive, like mine tried to do the last couple of weeks. And it's truly remarkable how you have so much more power mentally to affect how your life is going to be experienced. With everything out there being the same, I always tell my clients, people forget they have 100% control of how they choose to think. People forget that. They think their emotions and thoughts just fly in and they have no control over them sometimes. So what we know as hypnotists is we can start to train in new habits of thinking. Up is symbolic of my mindset for life. My license plate says, think up. I used to have little buttons in the old days when buttons were popular that I gave all my clients and when I do classes. And it says, think up. And then it says in the middle, unlimited possibilities, right? It's a theme. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. So think about the theme for your life. I'm going to ask you all, since you're here, you can play along or you don't have to because you are in control. But I would encourage you to close your eyes just for a moment and ask yourself, you know what I mean when I say that, what is my life theme right now? What is the theme of my life right now? And of course, you're going to get a feeling or a sense or a word or a phrase or an emotion. Something will come to you. However it comes to you is perfect for you. So accept it. And then the next question is, am I happy with that? Do I like that being my life theme right now? And if the answer is no, then remind yourself, I can change it. If the answer is yes, remind yourself, I can even make this even more powerful, so that it can affect in my life even more dramatically in positive ways than it already is. And if something can be better, why would you not want to make it better? Right? So open your eyes now. And is anyone here that's willing to tell me, did a theme immediately pop into your head of what your current right now life theme is?
Here.
Yes, Martin.
That's always been my life goal, was helping others. That has always been there.
Helping others. What do you get from helping others? What does that give you?
It gives you meaning.
Gives your life meaning. Purpose is a big thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Purpose and meaning in life. People have written all kinds of books through the centuries on the meaning. What is the meaning of life? So congratulations to Martin, because he's living his life purpose, isn't he? That's an amazing thing. Anybody else want to share what came to you? Judy, had your hand up.
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. And you're being honest. So bless you for being honest. Exhaustion.
No, don't like it.
Don't like it. So did anything come to you when I made the comment about, do you want to change it, or I forget what I said now.
Yeah, I would like to change it. Yeah.
Yeah. So exhaustion is something that can seem to be out of your control, right? Mm-hmm. The things that don't feel good, you usually when things feel like we can't do anything about them, right? That's what gets our mind in directions of that helplessness. And I don't know if you all remember my Y chart, my victim-victor chart that I do in all my classes. Yeah, I'm going to bring that up in a second. I actually had that ready for this class. But I want to bring up, first of all, did anybody else want to share what came to them? Because maybe it's not, maybe your current life theme is something you'd like to change. So hopefully by the end of this quick hour, maybe you will find out, get some ideas on that, because your mind knows how to do that. This is from Aristotle. Like I said, people have been thinking about these things a long time. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. Okay? I just wanted to throw that up there because, Aristotle, he had some stuff going there. My little conscious, unconscious mind. I want to talk about this bottom part here. So those of you that have done training with me already have seen this. So conscious mind, unconscious mind. Okay, conscious is what we're aware of. Unconscious has all the other stuff. The part that runs the body, the part that has all of our already trained in habits and behaviors and things like that. So when we talk about the habit of excellence, if it isn't at the unconscious level, then we're just calling it willpower. Like, today I'm going to be more confident, right? Or I'm going to be really excellent at playing tennis, or whatever it is that somebody wants to be excellent at. But if it's only on the conscious level, and if something is back here at the unconscious level that's in conflict with that, as we know, as those of us that are hypnotists, we know that the unconscious is going to win every time, because that's the imagination, which is running the show and interpreting everything that's coming into the conscious mind. So if people are using willpower for excellence, they're doing it the hard way, at the very least, and any positive results will probably be temporary. The unconscious mind, we talk about beliefs. You all know I talk about Bruce Lipton a lot, the biology of belief, the actual biology of what happens when we hold a belief in our system and how it affects the actual cells in the body, and of course the brain and all of our behaviors. And our identity is those beliefs that we call self-descriptions. And they also are our self-talk, right? And our self-talk in our head about who we believe ourselves to be at the unconscious level, that may have been trained in when we were 1, 2, 3, 4 years old or before, that's going to continue to color our behaviors, our habits, our decisions, our choices, all of that. So our ID literally is based on our internal dialogue. Who we are is based on who we keep telling ourselves we are, that we were trained to tell ourselves. If it doesn't match up to who we really are, then in hypnosis, we can get to the unconscious level and find out what are our true possibilities beyond maybe the limitations that we were told maybe as children or since then, and that got somehow stuck at the unconscious level, thinking we aren't everything that we actually are able to be. And in hypnosis, we can bypass this critical faculty here. We call it the filters. And the filter includes all of those already trained in behaviors and beliefs. And we can get past that long enough to access that what I call higher intelligence, which then can let us know, what are we really capable of? What does our innermost mind, our higher intelligence inside of us, that does know all of our possibilities, all of our potentials and talents, maybe that haven't even been tapped into yet, how can we access that to find out what is our true potential? What are the true limits or unlimits of what we can do, if that makes sense? So that identity becomes something that may or may not be accurate. If you're feeling, what was the word you used, Judy? Exhausted.
Exhaustion.
Yeah. That becomes a mindset of how you feel and how you are right now, becomes almost like a self-description, you could say. Not intentionally, obviously, right? We don't take those kind of things unintentionally, but we get a feeling and we start to feel that way, and then it becomes a part of us, and that tends to be self-perpetuating unless we start interrupting the patterns. And with hypnosis and neurolinguistics, we know how to start interrupting patterns. Yes, we all know how to do that. And if you don't have a way to interrupt your own patterns, then how are you going to teach people that you're helping how to interrupt their own patterns? Because I always say you can't change something if you aren't even aware that it needs changing, right? If you don't know you have a problem, then what's the problem? There is no problem, right?
Right.
But if you feel something isn't the way you want it to be, and you want it to be different, now you've got some self-awareness enough to want to change something. And we know that if you incorporate that inner intelligence, it's going to be a whole lot easier to change it. Yes, right? So the best way to access the inner intelligence is to bypass that logical, critical faculty. We call it the critical faculty in hypnosis, and access the part of the mind that does know everything about us, everything we've ever been, everything we are, and everything we are capable of becoming. And I say that, and I heard myself starting to say those kinds of things with clients a lot. And probably in your classes and seminars, that if you've gone to any of mine, because it is that part of us that knows. It doesn't have that negative opinion that isn't real. Martin, I'm sorry, did you have something that?
I have a client waiting for me, so I have to go.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm glad you have a client. I'm sorry, you have to go. This will be on YouTube. I'll clean it up and put it on YouTube if you want to hear the rest of it.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, so self-description, again, learned behaviors. Remember that unconscious mind also has already behind the scenes coloring everything we do, all of our habits. You know, when we wake up and we're still half asleep and we're in there brushing our teeth, it's because it's trained in. We don't have to really stop and think about it a lot. It's just part of our morning routine, right? Whatever your routines are, they're already trained in, and it frees up your conscious mind to be able to think about other stuff. I have my now clock that some of you know about. It used to be in my facility till I let it go a couple of years ago, but it's every minute is now. And I want to now go to make this next point, go to my now chart. Every moment is now. Like my now clock, every moment is now. And the only time you can change something is now. That's why I call it pivot point and pivotal response conditioning, because interrupting those patterns is what you do right now. If you let the pattern keep going down the road it's been going, you're going to keep getting more of what you've been getting, right? We all know the definition of insanity. So the pivot point is every single moment. So, and if you miss that one, then guess what? Then it happens here. Then it's still now, and it's still now, all the way down the road to becoming a victim. You still have now moments when you could start heading the other direction. That's what this is all about. So every moment in life is an energy. I call it a choice point. And the longer you go down the victim path, the farther away from the victor path you get. You might call it your possibilities, the positive possibilities. So every moment offers the opportunity to pivot from victim to victor. Victim just simply means, like this other part of it, that some of you have seen this before. Victim is when you are the effect. The exhaustion that you're feeling, if that's what it is the effect of all the stuff that's been happening, yeah? Mm-hmm. Right? Maybe internally and externally, who knows? Might all be this, it's all probably all affecting everything. And there's always a reason. If you're the effect of something, there are reasons. You can name them, right? Judy, I'll bet you can name all of the reasons you feel exhausted. Of course you can, because they're reasons. And taking judgment out of it, like I said, not putting blame on anything. If you start focusing, though, on the reasons, then you have the why question, which you've heard me say, those of you that have trained with me, the why question in the hypnotic process in change work rarely, not never, but rarely gets useful information. Because when you ask why, what do you get? You get these reasons. And reasons give more support for the exhaustion in this case. Reasons give you more reasons to be the effect because they're real, valid, true reasons. They're not made up. They're not in your imagination. They're real. They're just as real as anything else you could think. But they put you in the victim mode because they make you powerless. The more reasons you have for being exhausted, the more exhausted you get, the weaker you get, the more constrained, the unmotivated, and the more you're on that road, the worse you feel over and over, right? It becomes a self-fulfilling, replicating habit, so to speak. It doesn't sound like a habit, but the thinking part of it is something that you can start to change. You can't change the reasons, perhaps. Those might be completely out of your control, which is why when you're focused on reasons, you truly are powerless. So the best way to hit that middle pivot point right now is to start asking not why questions. Why do you feel this way? This is how the old style psychotherapy would keep people coming back for decades. Why do you feel this way? Oh, I have lots of reasons. Let me think about them and talk about them some more so I can keep feeling this way. Sorry, that just doesn't work very well to get you on the other side. So instead of why questions, you start saying what. And what's the first question we ask our client when they walk in and want to do something with us as a hypnotherapist? What do you want? What's that? Yeah.
What do you want to change?
Yeah, what do you want to change? And actually, even what do you want to change might take you back over to the problem, right? I want to change being exhausted. Now your focus is back on exhaustion. So if that's the answer, which is what do you want? I want to not be exhausted. We know that's not a good outcome for hypnosis. Is what do you want instead of exhaustion? With everything else that you can't change being the same, and believe me, there's been a lot of things the last 2 weeks that I had zero control over changing. Many I would have liked to, but I know that I have zero control over those things. So your mind, as long as it's there, like I said, you just feel worse and worse. Getting back to what do I want? What and how questions. What do I want and how do I want to feel while I'm having, sometimes the rest of it is while I'm having to deal with all this stuff that I can't do anything about. Okay. Like the thunderstorm or my computer crashing or losing a loved one, right? So what do I want and how can I be at my best getting through this? Sometimes that's the best you can do. And as soon as you start looking at what and how and when, sometimes when is a part of it, but mostly what and how, then now all of a sudden you start to have some power. You start to see possibilities, because when you ask a what question to yourself, what can I do? If you go into a light hypnotic state and you've been feeling really exhausted, and Judy, I hope you don't mind me using you because you were kind enough to share. And if you go into a light hypnotic state and start asking yourself in that quiet mind state after you've cleared the clutter, what can I do? What can I do right now to help myself? How can I feel better? How can I feel, I don't know what the opposite of exhaustion is. Energetic. And that might be a big leap. So there might be an interim, might be some incremental places you can start with to move over to that energetic. Or you might be able to surprise yourself and jump right into energetic. Because you said that just now, and when you said it, you sounded pretty darn energetic. So I'm like, that whole thing about if you act that way, your body might find a way to start making that a part of your way of getting through whatever's been causing that. So what questions, how questions, when questions sometimes are a good way to start moving over to this Victor. And like I said earlier, I'm going to stop sharing. Like I said earlier, all of a sudden, now you've trained yourself to start having the habit, because we know we can develop new habits in hypnosis much more quickly than just repetition is one way we get habits, and that can be part of it. But if you're doing it at the unconscious level, that repetition usually doesn't have to be as much before it gets automated. Sometimes one hypnotic process can create a whole new habit. Think about a smoker that comes to us. They used to say, habits take 28 days to develop a new habit. I'm like, and then one day, many years ago, I said, wait a minute. People come in with the habit of smoking, and they walk out the door and they have a new habit, don't they? Where did that other habit go? It got transformed into a new habit of being someone who just breathes healthy, clear air. And that other desire is gone. So the new habit didn't take 28 days or whatever that person wrote in a book a couple of decades ago. You know, we keep repeating things that aren't necessarily up to what is really possible. So I always like to blast through limits. You know, the reason the first part of my company name is Unlimited Possibilities is because when somebody says something to me, I don't care how much of a wonderful expert they are in the field that they're voicing their opinion, and even if it's something I don't know anything about, but when somebody says an absolute to me, or says something like, the science is settled, those kinds of things, I'm sorry, but that is so against science. You know, and I don't get into politics in these things at all. So it has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with, if it's absolute, it just means right now, we don't see anything beyond that. But I always say, you know, there was a time when it was absolutely true that the world is flat, you know, and things, other things. So there are no absolutes in my mind if they're limiting me. They may be true. So when somebody says something absolutely to me, I say, well, they seem to know what they're talking about. So I'm going to consider that and sit it over here. Now, this is what the mind does, metaphor, right? The mind knows when I say, I'm going to sit it over here for a second, which is on my left side, by the way. And my right side, which is my creative side in my mind, is going to stay open to all other possibilities that might be beyond what that person knew about. Because you know what? Medicine and science and everything's changing so fast now. Think of all the advancements we've had in the last 5, 10, 20 years in every field. So, you know, there's always new information that might become available. And I'm sure 100 years from now, that will still be the case. And 1,000 years from now, if we still have humans that can think, I'm sure that will still be the case. So the idea of thinking about, you know, this might be true, but I'm still going to be open to other possibilities that might actually make my experience in life even better. I think that's a nice way to go through life. So when we talk about a theme, that's what think up means to me. Think up means there might be even more that's possible than what certain people have. That everybody's got an opinion, right? And my opinion is, in my mind, right, but I hopefully don't have any that are so strident that I'm not open to other possibilities. And sometimes we got to remind ourselves of that if we want to live life to the fullest. So inside of you is, the good news is, there's that unconscious mind that knows all of your possibilities. And so hopefully, and when I do these, I just want to spark your creative juices flowing and get you curious. And I'd like you to leave this with one curious thought. I wonder what else is possible inside of me in my life that I haven't even considered yet. Because you know what? I would venture to even guarantee that there is more possible than your logical mind thinks. Physically, mentally, emotionally, career-wise, socially, any area of your life that you would like to have more, I would venture to say it's possible for you to do that. And sometimes we just got to get out of our own way. So any questions, any comments? So do all of you have a way to interrupt your patterns, your own patterns? I know in my class, in the medical training that we just finished, and Sean, I know we talk about pattern interrupts, and Oki is in the current hypnosis training. Still a little bit congested, sorry. And, you know, hopefully you've got some ways for yourself to interrupt patterns. I think of it as coming back to now and being back in the present moment. Psychology has a really cool thing called mindfulness now that to me is something we've been doing in hypnosis and neurolinguistics for a long time. So I'm glad they caught up with that little piece anyway. No offense to psychologists, but you know, mindfulness is nice to be in the moment because usually we're either in the past or the future, you know, where our mind is, and that's because we have so many automated things in our behaviors that we don't have to be in the moment all that often. You know, our mind can drive the car while we think about other stuff. We can walk while we think about other stuff. We don't have to focus on so many things that we do every day. And that's a good thing. So where is your mind is a good question to ask yourself. There's a where question. Hadn't thought of that one before. And what do I think about most of the day? What am I thinking about most of the day? And if it's something that's keeping you in a place where you'd rather not be, the answer to that, because you'll know the answer as soon as you ask yourself that, when you get into that quiet mind, then it's nice to know you have the ability to change that. You always have the ability to change your mind. So interrupt the pattern, go into a light state of hypnosis. If you want to close your eyes and do a deeper state, that's always fun, but it's not necessary, I don't believe. And start telling yourself maybe 2 minutes a day in the morning and 2 minutes at night, maybe, or 1 minute as you're falling asleep at night, because we know we drift through the hypnotic brainwave state. Tell yourself tomorrow, or when you wake up in the morning, say today, as I'm waking up, today, whenever my mind goes to that thing that I know has been keeping me in that place that I don't want to be, now that I know it, now that I'm aware of it, I can change it. Whenever my mind starts to go there, I'm going to interrupt that. My interrupt, you all know, is a deep breath and pressing my fingers and thumbs together. It brings me right back here instantly. So it needs to be something quick. You don't have time to stop and go take a break and meditate for 20 minutes sometimes. Sometimes you don't have that luxury. So when you're in that light hypnotic state, tell your mind to bring it to your attention whenever your mind goes in that direction and to hit interrupt. You're going to start retracking the brain waves, or the tracks in the brain, the neural pathways, whatever words there are for dendrites, all those fancy names the neurologists know. And you can start retracking and developing new habits. And it happens quickly because your mind always wants you to feel as good as possible in any given moment. And I think we can always feel better. I can always be more up. Although right now I'm so up, I'm thinking time is going by much faster than it really is. I don't know why. Probably because I've been kind of down the last couple of weeks with this. I'm not used to being low on energy. So all that sleeping, so I got to make up for all that time. So any questions about that? So if you don't have an instant pattern interrupt for yourself, I encourage you to find one. It can be a word. Yeah, Sean?
So when people, it's interesting how they don't see how everything's connected. How do you, when working on one particular area that they're interested in working on, connect it to other areas for them?
Connect it to other areas, meaning the focus of the session.
Well, say, for example, someone is stressed at work and you want to give them a particular way how to relax, and then saying, hey, do you also notice it in this area now of your life? Because they think they compartmentalize things and they're not connected. And we know that the subconscious is connected to everything. So how do you point out, like, it's also benefiting these areas? Do you have them take a look at those other areas after the fact? That have you noticed also where it's helping you in your life in other areas?
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice in subsequent sessions, the first usually 10 minutes or so of each session after I've already seen someone, the next sessions, and I tell them this ahead of time. I want them to anticipate and I want their unconscious to know that this is going to be part of the next session. And I'm telling them this as they're leaving the first session, is that the first 5 or 10 minutes of the next session, we're going to start with only the things you've noticed that are in the right direction.
Okay. So
and then I tell them, to your point, I say, even if it doesn't seem directly connected to what you came here for. Okay. Because as we know, those of us that work with hypnosis with people, that does happen. And Sean, you're a life coach. I know you've been a life coach for a long time. So or what do you call it? Performance coach? What do you call yourself?
High performance, but yeah.
High performance. So, and you're a hypnotist too. Now, that the changes, that ripple effect with using hypnosis for the focus of the sessions does ripple out and affect everything. And I think it is a nice thing to get the person to acknowledge it and to become aware of those changes. And what I do in the first few minutes of each session, like I said, with clients, is I get them to bring those out into conscious verbalizing to me. So now and I'm encouraging them, and I say, yeah, now we're going to lift those things. I'll use, use emphasis with your clients, because that makes it in the mind, those internal representations, those IRs we talk about, that's what our mind does anyway with life. So I'll say, we want to elevate those things, even if it seemed like a little bit of an improvement. I said, I want to elevate it to a high level of honor and appreciation now, and give it a lot of acknowledgement, give yourself a lot of pats on the back, no matter how small the improvements are. And usually the improvements are bigger. Sometimes they're gigantic, but even if they're small, I say, you want to acknowledge it, you want to elevate it and appreciate it. And we know when we do that, now we have also emphasized their focus on what they want, the results that they came for. And the more time they focus on the result, back to the Y chart, right? One side has reasons for the problem that support the problem. The other side that supports being a victor is results. So our job is, I believe, as hypnotists, is to keep the clients from the minute we get started, once we know what their goal is, as much as possible, to keep their focus on the results and what's going to keep getting results. And appreciating the results, we know, amplifies the physical, emotional body, which is the unconscious part of the body. It elevates that those chemicals in the body, appreciation and giving thanks and all of that, gratitude, we know, produces chemicals in the body that are powerful. They're very empowering. So if we can keep doing that with our clients, like I said, the first few minutes of the session, I want to start with that because I want to empower them and get them to acknowledge and recognize what they did. And I'm going to give them recognition, say, look what you did this week. You just said that was something little, but you said that you hadn't done that like that in 10 years. So give it the appreciation it deserves and give yourself the appreciation you deserve. So I'm going to just elevate that and give it all that emphasis. And then I say, we're going to put whatever still needs, work. We're going to just set that aside for the first 5 or 10 minutes. And if they go back to the problem or something that didn't go right, I'm going to say, okay, I know there's more to do, but we're going to set that over here. And again, metaphorically, the mind knows that means it's still there, but we're going to focus on this stuff now because this is what's getting me what I want. And amplify that. We know what you focus on amplifies. That's the whole premise behind hypnosis. So I want to keep their focus on what's getting the results. And then we go to what still needs work. But now I've already got them pumped up a little bit, realizing they've done something since the last time they were in my office. Not just while they were in my office, because I did something in their mind. I want them to know they did it. And then they can keep doing it and they can make it even more, even stronger, even bigger. And then that level starts rising. And before you know it, they're catching with that pivotal response. I'm teaching them how to interrupt patterns when they're not with me, and then doing it in the session a few times. So they start to get a sense of, oh yeah, I can snap out of that quick and get my mind on something else. And I feel a little better now because I'm not thinking about that anymore. I feel better when I think about this. And they can do that and they can start to prove it to themselves in the session. And then I get them to practice it. And then I say, tell me about using that this past week. And usually the first week, they're not real clear on what it's all about. If they haven't taken classes like this, they don't know what I'm talking about right away, but I still get them doing it. And then I'll explain it again and we'll build on it. Whatever went right, we build. Focus on what's working. So, any questions? So find a way to do this for yourself and prove to yourself how quickly you can snap into a more resourceful state. That's the way I think of it. You're not going to be able to be happy all the time. You're not going to be able to have a lot of energy every moment. It's not possible. We're talking about possibilities, but we have to be realistic as well. But usually realistic for most people is limiting them from what really is possible. They're being too realistic according to what the general consensus is maybe. So again, go inside of yourself, ask your inner intelligence, what's possible for me that maybe someone else isn't aware of? Go to the expert inside of you and then find a way to pivot and find a word or a trigger to snap back into that intelligence and back into that. I call this my resource anchor because it's for everything. When I do that, whatever I need shows up. I don't have to stop and think about it. I just know it shows up. And now I have more energy. I've got more focus, whatever it is, it just shows up. Because your mind knows what you need to be resourceful. So do you all have something already you use? And if you do, I see a couple of nods. If you do, ask yourself, perhaps, if you'd like to, how can I make this much more powerful. How can I use this in a way that allows me to be resourceful at times when in the past maybe I wasn't as resourceful as is possible for me? And again, I always say it's not about putting on what we used to call rose-colored glasses back in the, before most of you were born. I got to stop talking about stuff from the 1960s. Makes me feel old. You know, I'm going to be 70 in October.
Wow.
It's weird. I have to keep saying it because it's like, really? No, you're kidding, right? Yeah. It feels pretty damn good, I guess. It feels, even though I've been sick for 2 weeks, it feels better than I thought it would. Jeez, this ain't so bad after all. I wonder what 80 will be like. Well, I don't want to rush it, like the time and rush it. Tomorrow I'll wake up and go, oh God, where'd the last 10 years go? So any questions, any comments, anybody want to add something that you have found? Because I know you're all practicing hypnotists and change work facilitators. You all know a lot about this. Anything you have found unique that you'd like to share with the rest of us that could maybe add to that, Sean? And then we'll go to Judy, because I saw your hand.
I had a interesting last 2 weeks myself, and it's interesting to hear from people how they expect you should feel. And when you don't, they want to know what you're doing differently. And what I've told people is how you become aware of changes in patterns is by working on it constantly. And when you notice something's off, that inner voice is paying attention to it and researching it and going a little bit deeper. And that actually saved my life. So it's interesting. And then people are like, well, you should take care of yourself. I am. Why do you think I'm not? Because they have a certain set rules of how people should be. And when you start to disrupt the norm, I think they're like, well, you're the exception. I'm like, well, I choose to be the exception. And I think that's where hypnosis comes into a big role, is we choose to do what we're doing. And if we can show people how to make different choices, it does impact them. And from the situation I went through, 25 other men went to go get checked out, which was huge. And 2 actually found out that they could be susceptible to have a heart attack. And everyone assumes that because you look healthy and are healthy, that there'll never be anything wrong with you. And I think that's the misconception, is we all need to really dive in deeper to figure out what makes us who we are and check in with, quote, experts. But at the same time, I've had 3 doctors tell me 3 different things. So you want to.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you mind sharing just what you just recently went through.
Yeah, it was.
But you sort of already said it. But
the heart attack, which is weird, is they expect you to have pain down your arm, tightness in your jaw, your head. I had none of that. It was my upper back, and I was tight from a workout. The crazy thing is, I go in and get the EKG. That's fine, but there's an enzyme that they showed from blood work that says, hey, you're actually having a heart attack right now. Yeah. Like, okay. They go through my wrist, put 2 stents in, everything's fine. And the doctor's like, you have no heart damage. This is not normal. And I'm like, well, it's because I relaxed myself. But the thing is, then you have this, what's that pain? Is this something else going on? Where the hypnosis has definitely helped me relax that, saying, I'm fine. And I think that's the big thing that we have to realize. A lot of people are looking for certain things to say, oh, I need that to happen. That makes me healthier, like weight loss. And like, but what about all these other things? Your blood pressure is better. You feel better. Your attitude's better. You look better. Why are you looking at this only factor as a measuring device? And I think that's where we start using this hypnosis to, like you said, point out where you're getting that success. And let's focus on that first. And then we can address these other things. But that's where people want to go to the worst case scenario. And I'm like, no, let's look what works. Let's focus on where you're doing exceptionally well, and then we'll work on these other things.
Yeah, build on it. Yeah, exactly. And that's where people get overwhelmed. They start thinking of all of the things that they have to do, or that they should do, or that people tell them about, And another part of this, just because you said that, and I'll go to Judy here in a second. The other thing that I encourage you as change work facilitators, which is what we are, is to find a way. I talk a lot about having that some kind of a way to protect yourself from some of that input, you know, with what you just, like I said, last year when you were in the training, Sean, I know firsthand, you're one of the healthiest people I know. I mean, I got to know you pretty well, I think. And, you know, it surprised me when I heard that had happened to you, you know, so, but I'm not surprised to see how your attitude and how healthy you look still, you know, because again, it's like, find a way to you got to take in information from the experts and from people, but find a way to shield, because people are always going to have opinions. And to me, it's the shield is about only letting through the shield into your energy field, which is going to affect your emotions, only those things that are going to help you, that are good for you. Anything else that would limit you or that isn't helpful, just you still be aware of it. You know, that's the difference between being cautious and being afraid. I think of it like that. A lot of people are afraid right now, and I run into them all the time, and they're coming to me. Fear is not a helpful, unless you're being chased or attacked. That's not a helpful emotion. Caution is very smart, but it's a different feeling than fear, and it doesn't damage cells in your body when you're cautious, because that means you're aware and you're considering options and you're listening and you're evaluating and all of that. Fear just shuts you down. It shuts down your brain. So you're not healthy when that's happening. Your digestion gets bad. You can't sleep, blah, blah, blah. So find a way to shield out people, because like I said, everybody has an opinion. If it's something that's in your mind, and here's the key, consciously, it's too much. You can't do it. It's too much. It's overload for the conscious mind. That's why we get stressed out. Tell your unconscious mind, train your unconscious mind, and just tell it. You all know the Star Wars shield goes up, and I go, you know, what that person says, I'm going to hear it. I'm going to evaluate it, but I'm not going to let it affect me emotionally. It works. It works. I use the same anchor for that. If I start to feel it, I just put it up, and it protects me. Judy, you had a question.
Well, one of the exhaustion comes from my job right now. So when I started to feel the exhaustion, when I walk in the morning, I say the Ho'oponopono prayer. And then on my way to work, I started to think, what can I learn today and how fast can I learn it?
Nice.
Because even if you're overwhelmed learning whatever you're doing, if you know at the end of the day that you learned something and you got a good chunk of it that you can walk away with, it just makes you feel better.
Very nice. See, you're developing. See, when we have problems on any level of life, if we're approaching it like that, that's when we do learn things. That's when we develop strategies for dealing with life in the future, if we're smart. You know, instead of being the victim again, start asking those what and how questions of ourselves, and the strategies start to show up. Possibilities come up. See, your mind gave you a strategy of how to think about that. That's, I'm sure, that helped you to feel better.
Yeah.
And a little more like you're doing something. Because again, sometimes we can't control. Many times we can't control the rest of the world or other people, you know. And my sister, who just passed away, she was one of the most challenging people. You all heard me joking about her in the class. I used to say she was my best study project for how people can take victimization to an art form. I joke about it because she was. And it didn't serve her, obviously, but, you know, people only change if they want to change. So I ended up stopped being frustrated over it many years ago, thanks to hypnosis and neurolinguistics. And I decided to just make her be a fascinating study project, you know, but it still was challenging to be around someone that negative. You know, it's like, you got to protect yourself. Anybody else have any comments? Or yeah, Ivana, you got to unmute yourself.
Yeah, so I have two things. The first one is, I love your chart, the victor and victim. And I know I mentioned this before, but this book, The Power of Ted, I don't know if you guys have seen it.
David
Before.
Emerald.
Yeah, David Emerald.
I don't remember you showing that. I probably wrote it down somewhere.
Yeah, I have, like, this book is highlighted in, and I have so many tag marks. It really is written like a fictional book, but it's based on David Emerald's life. And he goes over what you're describing, Patty, is something called Cartman's drama triangle. Going from, he was either a doctor or a psychiatrist, one of those, and he described that drama state of mind. So David Emerald wrote a book, and now he teaches, and he's a coach as well, and he works more in executive coaching more than anything else, but this can be applied to anything. And I love his stuff because it goes over, if you're in a victim state, these are the stages you go through. These are the questions you most likely ask yourself. So this is how you go into that victor state. And these are the states, 3 states in particular. And these are the steps, and this is how it goes. He breaks it down so easily that you can, into these easy steps.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so read that book. Like, to me, I read that at least once or twice a year because it's really good. And then the second thing that I wanted to share with you is that positivity shield that you're talking about and how important it is. And you've heard me talk about me starting hypnobirthing as well, teaching. I'm starting with teaching hypnobirthing. I finally found clients, by the way.
I was going to say, did you get some people that participate?
I did.
Oh, good.
It's wonderful. But one of the things that it's extremely important is that having that protective shield from the birth stories that everybody under the sun and their aunts are going to tell you. Even the men have the birthing stories that are not productive, and the moms come frightened, whether this is their 4th baby or this is their 1st baby. They're like, oh my God, birth is a horrible event. So my first class is really just dehypnotizing them and establishing that positivity shield and talking about how you hypnotize yourself into having this wonderful birth. And it's extremely important to have the positivity shield. So just a little
very
commentary.
Cool. Any other questions? I think we're definitely out of time now. I'm doing an NLP 2-day training in Oldsmar, Florida. Sean, we moved the office. We're not in Dunedin anymore. We're in Oldsmar, which is closer to Tampa. If anybody wants to take a vacation to Florida, I had a girl that drove up from Miami last year to do the 2-day training, and she absolutely loved it. And if you go to YouTube, you can look up the video on the morning of the 2nd day that these 2 ladies, the one that drove up from Miami, they were like off the charts, so excited about what happened the first day of that training that they were so giddy. I said, I got to do a video with these 2. And they'd only had 1 day of training, and they were both just so giddy. It's a really cool little video. Anyway, so if you want to have some fun with NLP and a little vacation to Florida, and if you want to have some fun in Orlando in November, you could come to the HEA conference, which is very inexpensive in Orlando at the Hampton Inn, Orlando International Airport. And it's HEAhypnosis.com. They have some cool stuff on there. There's also, those are places you can go without being a member, and there's articles, there's past, there's a lot of interesting stuff on those. You're all members of IACT and IMDHA or something, most of you. Oki, you're a student member. You all have the virtual library. There's so much there. I got to admit, I don't go as often as I probably should because I'm always researching anyway, but there's a lot there and there's always new stuff. So, take advantage of those things. Those are the perks of and it piques your creativity and it just makes you better at what you do. And to me, learning is so exciting. The mind will never get old or boring to me because it's just, especially my mind, because it's pretty weird. So, I have a lot of fun delving into mental things. So I'll let you all know when I'm doing 3rd Wednesday every month, an hour on something. I forget what next month is. You'll have to go look at it. I'm going to start doing the Masters series. It might be called a deep dive into something or someone. I don't know yet. But it'll be a couple hours or 2 or 3 hours, very inexpensive. For all of you, it'll be very inexpensive because members always get a discount. And any questions, you can contact me again through the website or at uphypnosis@Yahoo or uphypnosis at Outlook. And let's stay in touch. Next May 13th through the 15th is the IACT IMDHA Hypno Expo. And they will have an online version, but it is going to be live. It's going to be at the Holiday Inn in Orlando, Florida, which is just all redone. We used to do the HEA conference there. It is phenomenal. I love that hotel.